Hey everybody, Edo here, and I am excited today because I have Chad Krizan, I think, if I got it right.
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome on the line, and say hello, Chad.
Hi, glad to be here.
So, Chad is OG, old school, BGG, been with those folks since the beginning, and in particular manages the advertisement wing of BGG and the store.
Hmm.
And I have tons of questions, and that's actually how we started interacting. If you're like, hey, I want to do, ads on BGG for my Kickstarter, you get an email from Chad, or you email and then you reach out. So, just to start off, can you like take us through how you even started at BGG? I mean, this is a long time ago, but like, what's your origin story into board games?
Yeah, it's kind of a right place at the right time kind of deal. Early on the site, if you were contributing a lot of stuff to the site, like I was uploading a lot of games and rules questions and things like that, sometimes you'd get a message from Aldi saying, "Hey, do you want to be an admin? Since you're creating a lot of work for us, how about you just do some of the work?" So,
Digest your own food.
yeah. So I started out as a volunteer admin on the site, doing game approvals, file approvals, all that sort of thing. And one day at my job, I was a urban planner at an architecture firm at the time. Um, I just happened to be chatting with him. He had quit his job to work on Board Game Geek full time. I don't think it was too long prior to this.
How just to so this was 12 years ago. How long? When did BGG first come on? How long has BGG been around?
Oh gosh, when did they launch it? I think it was somewhere around 2000.
About the site's been around for about 4 or 5 years. It sounds like when you
It was somewhere around, it was 99 or 2000 when they
yeah,
first put the site online.
and it's getting bigger, and you're contributing, and Aldi is just finally like, I think this is big enough for me, and I need these helps from these admins because I don't want to keep approving their submissions. And go on with your story.
Yeah, so I just happened to be at my regular job chatting with him in Gmail, and I just asked him, "Hey, how are you running this whole site by yourself?" Because I was curious. I wasn't looking for a job or fishing for anything, and his response just happened to be, I have all these advertising emails. I just don't have time to respond to them. When you get home from work tonight, give me a call. I'll hook you up with the emails. I'll set you up in the billing system, and you can work on this on a part-time commission basis. And I think from there, it was maybe 3 months later, I quit my job.
That didn't last very long.
So it turned out there was a lot of low-hanging fruit there that just wasn't getting responded to at the time.
He's like, this
That
guy wants to give us $10,000, sir. What are you doing?
Oh, and at the time, it was a huge risk because, I mean, I'm glad I was in my early 20s at the time where this risk was acceptable and I didn't have kids or anything, because looking back,
You
it's
mean
a
how you
risk. It
threw
was a
away your
risky
entire
decision
career?
because, yeah, the industry 12 years ago was nothing compared to what it was now. I mean, that was pre-crowdfunding. It was at a time where if you asked anybody what Settlers of Catan was, most people had no idea.
Right,
So
right.
it was a much different world at the time. But looking back, no regrets on that decision.
Yeah, so well, sometimes you got to take the leap.
Yeah.
And so you've basically, I mean, you've been working with BGG for a long time, but it sounds like in terms of just BGG, because when I look at BGG, you may have been like, "How are you doing this with one person?" I feel like it's like, "How are you doing this with six people?" Like, how in terms of that over the last 12 years, when did it really like go from like steady growth to explosive growth? Like, I feel like in the last 3 years, you've probably put on as many daily at users, if you will, than in the like 6 years before that. How's the growth been with you guys?
I mean, really, ever since I started, traffic goes up 20, 30% a year. That's
Also,
started to level off a little bit. But yeah, especially around the time that crowdfunding started becoming a thing and publishers like Asmodee started pushing getting games into the big box stores, growing the market by a lot. Those two things combined seem to have really pulled in a lot of people, especially in these last 5 years or so. If
Right.
I were to take a stab at it.
Cool. But generally it's just been growing for you guys, growing in terms of advertisement, in terms of users and all that, right?
Yeah, I mean, due to our position in the industry, if gaming is experiencing growth, we are also experiencing growth. So it's kind of an industry-wide effect, I think, where you just see
Sure.
more and more people playing games, and we're the resource for those people.
Awesome. Awesome. And I mean, certainly without a doubt, Board Game Geek has been a huge resource for Pencil First Games and everything that I do. And so I'm, an active contributor and user of the site. Um, but in terms of like to focus in on the stuff that you're responsible for,
Hmm.
so over even the last couple years, I feel like your offering has sort of grown in terms of your newsletters and your takeovers and your banners and your banner sizes and locations, and then you also have your contests.
Hmm.
Like, just because why not? Can you give like a little rundown? Like, hey, if you want to advertise on Board Game Geek, here's basic and you have a fantastic PDF that like lists this all out with pricing and all that. But just for the
Hmm.
general viewer, how would you lay down advertising opportunities on BGG?
Yeah, when someone approaches us, I send them that kit with all the options. Kind of the big baseline option is the site-wide banner advertising. I mean, every page of Board Game Geek has a banner ad of some sort on it. That's kind of the baseline. And then the way I've structured it is for every certain amount of site-wide advertising you take out, you can also add in these what I call add-on options. Basically, exposure on the homepage. There's extra add-on options. Exposure mailing lists. There's add-on options for that. And then once you get past the banner advertising and mailing lists, yeah, you have those contests that launch Monday, Wednesday, Friday every week and feature a game for that week. So that's kind of the quick overview
Sure,
of
sure.
all the things.
And from my experience, and I've actually I've done many of the different options. I don't think I've done a contest. I almost did one and I didn't. Based on your game and your advertisement and your ads, you can see different performance in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked on so far the newsletter stuff has been just strong performing, but I've had
Mm-hmm.
banner ads that have been performing, other ones that are under. So you're very much targeting a certain audience of users with what you're putting up on BGG, right?
Yeah, very sure. And then, like you said, from campaign to campaign, from game to game, the performance can be quite a bit different. I mean, unfortunately, yours have struggled with the banner advertising, but like as you know, that doesn't mean that the project isn't funding well. I mean,
Oh
some,
no,
some
it is.
yeah, like Skull Hollow right now is
Yeah, it's been
is
great.
really banking out and doing awesome, but you see that the banner ads, and it's hard to put a finger on it. They're just not driving the traffic we would expect them. So it just goes from project to project.
Yeah, and
It's
so
different.
and for those who are curious on that, you have the information on click through, which Board Game Geek can give you, but then at the same time using Kickstarter, Google Analytics, you can also then look at, generally speaking, conversion from those ads and conversion
Mm-hmm.
from the site to get a feel for it, because it's one of many advertising dollars. But Kickstarters aren't the only people that advertise on BGG, right? I mean,
Right.
basically it's saying, it's from what I can gather. I mean, you have your sort of crowdfunding ads, but then they'll have like sort of release and pre-release ads for
Mm-hmm.
retail games, and then just general awareness ads. Do you think about those ads in any sort of different way, or you just whatever somebody wants to advertise, you let them like? Do you bucket them in any way in your head?
I don't have any buckets for them, with the exception of we have a Gone Cardboard email that goes out every week that specifically focuses on games that actually released into retail in the previous week.
Right.
So that particular one is kind of put into a bucket because it's a very specific target. But in general, I mean, if I were to just take a stab at it, about 70% of the ads that run on the site right now are probably of the crowdfunding variety. And it makes sense because crowdfunding has that limited window to get people's attention where you need to
Sure.
push it hard. Whereas I don't know that publishers see the urgency in getting the message out once the game actually hits retail.
Right.
And you kind of see that just in the overall climate right now where people seem excited about games that are coming in 6 months and then not that excited about them once they're actually here. They're now excited about something that's coming in 6 months. So it's kind of funny that that advertising trend seems to match
Yeah, the
the
hype
trend in what
machine.
you see from board game geek type users, at least. Maybe not the hobby at large,
Right,
but
right.
the
Well, and there's also a
hardcore
little
users that are on board game geek.
right. Yeah, and there's also a little bit around like, unless you're selling direct, a lot of times if you're just advertising for a game that's just been released, you're sort of, are they going to buy it online? Are they going to buy it on retail? You're sort of advertising for people who should be advertising themselves a little bit too. Unless you're just selling direct to the, what does that, when you on a Kickstarter, an ad is clicking through to a buy moment, right? To a purchase,
Hmm.
to a page experience where sometimes it's when you're doing ads to pre-releases or just awareness campaigns is a little bit different. But so that's
Hmm.
actually one of the things that you focus on. The other is the store, and like
Hmm.
again, my eye into BGG has not been as close or as intimate as yours, but like it does seem that over the last, I want to say 3 or 4 years, but you could be like, yeah, it's been since 2005. The offering on the store has been increasing. The self branded stuff, like the little plastic trays that you put the coins in, these are awesome. Those are awesome. I have like a whole bunch
Hmm.
of those.
Yeah.
Highly recommended. Buy that from BGG. But there seems to be more of that kind of stuff. Like, how would you describe the progression of the BGG store, both on the site and at conventions?
Yeah, the store kind of started out as we had this idea of to make it a better value proposition for advertisers. So this ties into advertising. We started allowing publishers to send us promos, and we gave them advertising credit in exchange. So the advertising credit was generally at least twice as much as what it cost them to produce that thing.
Right.
And then our sales on it, we make more money on the sales than if they had paid in cash. So it was kind of this win-win situation where it's cheaper for the publisher and a better deal for us because we have a crowd of people that wants to buy all these cool promos. And it started out just it was pretty fortuitous that Dominion had just released at the time, super hot, and our first promo was a Dominion promo. So that was a good thing to kickstart that with such a
Sure.
popular thing. Um, and publishers really latched onto it, responded really well to it, and where now we've got to have almost 1,000 promos for sale in the store now for all kinds of different games. And then we started in the last, I think you said probably last 2 to 3 years, we started coming up with some of our own stuff. I started doing the artist series prints where we
Super cool,
invited
man.
artists to do cool artwork for various games. Like we mentioned, these bit bowls. Now we do custom drawstring bag sets, the custom bit sets for various games, the Geek Up bit sets. I don't know if you've seen those or not, but they're.
Geek up. It's what do they look like?
I
I
have
mean, it's
one
no
over
big
here.
deal.
If I can step off camera for a second.
Sure, we get to see what's behind you.
Yeah,
Look at those
these.
classic games.
Yeah, so it's special bit sets for games like
Oh,
Orleans.
oh, those. Yeah,
They're,
yeah, yeah. I've seen those.
they're plastic with the 4-color heat transfer on them. So upgrades for the cardboard in various games. And we still work directly with publishers on all of this stuff. I make sure to get permission. They all get a royalty of some sort in exchange. So it works similar to the promo program, except we handle some of the production ourselves on some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, you guys are a huge marketplace, right? You have a very specific, captive, engaged audience, right? That's,
Hmm.
the only reason they're on that site is because they like board games, right?
Yeah,
So,
we have the people that will buy the custom inserts for games and the custom bits for games. I mean, the people that will sink $50 into a game that they paid $50 for just to have that upgraded experience. And I'm one of those people, so I'm not making fun of that, but
no, no, no.
it's,
Hey,
you
people should,
have your favorite games and you want them to be more awesome. So there's
people put
definitely that aspect.
money towards what makes them excited.
Yeah.
So, okay, so a couple questions. So there's the storefront, and presumably as a publisher, if they want to say, hey, I have a promo card, I wouldn't mind offsetting my advertisement costs. They
Hmm.
just email you, right? Basically.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, so in terms of the roadmap, and I know, just to the extent that it's something you're comfortable talking about, because I know uh, the site and you've been going through an overhaul very, very slowly over the last few
Mhm.
years of different pages. But when you look at BGG and where you see it going, what do you think is on the? I'm going to ask the same question about the industry, but in terms of the site, I mean, how do you see it growing and developing in the coming years?
Gosh, I mean, we have the redesign process that's kind of ongoing. I can't speak too much
Yeah,
in
no,
detail
yeah, yeah.
because I'm just not involved with that side of the site very much. But I know they're excited to get a new homepage up and running. That's basically it's this kind of double-edged thing where you want to continue to cater to the hardcore audience that's been your support, but you also want the person that's just wanting to find out about games.
Right.
When they come, you want them to be able to find stuff. So there's this difficult problem to solve where we hope to continue getting better in that regard. And we've been growing quite a bit on the content creation side of things as well.
You guys
Uh,
picked up Rodney, right?
yeah, it kind of started. We brought Lincoln Damhurst on board to kind of oversee the content creation. Most people watching probably know him from Game Night, but he also does the production on a lot of our video content. And then, yeah, we shortly thereafter added Rodney, who always knocks it out of the park with his
Oh, he's
content.
he's amazing.
Yeah, just continuing to grow that to bring more exposure to games via that format as well.
Awesome. And then are there any new opportunities there, I guess specifically to your realm in terms of advertisement or store opportunities you see coming through, or is the format that you have right now sort of where you see it continuing for the time being?
I'm always looking for more options for marketing on the site. It's tricky though with Board Game Geek since the users are paramount on Board Game Geek. You don't want to inundate people with marketing and advertising when they're
Right.
trying to use the site as a resource. So it's a tricky balance trying to figure out what areas we can grow in, what areas it's just too much. We're just inundating people with advertising at
Right.
a certain
And
point.
you guys have if I'm not mistaken, don't you offer like a ad blocker feature within the site, don't you? Am I crazy? Like you
Yeah,
can
if you pledge enough, what's the term for it? If
geek
you
or
pledge
what?
enough money per year to the site as a patron, you have the option of turning off any advertising that you would like to turn off. So it's very customizable where you can choose to keep this and this, but I don't want to see this.
Yeah. Well, I actually when advertisement. I mean, I'm not speaking for the world, but when it's relevant to like my interests, I certainly don't mind. Like I find BGG a great way to see like, hey, what Kickstarter campaign just launched? Well, it's probably the
Mhm.
one that's advertising right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we get back both ways. You definitely have the people that just don't want to see advertising, and I almost see allowing them to self-filter themselves out a plus for advertisers because if someone doesn't want to see the ad, you don't want to really show them an ad either at that point. Um, but I also hear people on the other side saying, "Oh, I use a Google Chrome extension to block ads, but I enable Board Game Geek because everything's game related on Board Game Geek and actually relevant to my interests, at least most of
right.
the time." So you kind of see both ends of that deal.
Yeah. Well, so looking at So stepping away from BGG for a second and just looking at the industry in general, right? And this is a sort of conversation I have lots with people, but it's obviously booming. It's been
Mhm.
growing in all different sectors. You are seeing, generally speaking, retail challenges, and that's both in board games, but also across all physical content, right? Like Toys R Us is having a struggling, and it's not because of board games and other stores, because of Amazon and things like that.
Mhm.
And you've seen the just the complete Kickstarter crowdfunding push. When you think about the upcoming year, it's November, right? We're coming to the end of the year. We're going to be in 2019. What are some of the things that excite you about 2019, and what are some of the things that concern you about 2019?
This one I need a little thinking time. Exciting me about 2019. Obviously, just the work we're doing on the website is exciting to me. Just
That's a good
improving
answer,
it.
by the way,
Yeah.
for those watching.
But industry wide, I think a lot of it is just the innovation we're continuing to see in pushing the boundaries of what board gaming is. I've really enjoyed playing some of these games, like Detective from Portal Games, that kind of push that wall of what a tabletop gaming experience is. I mean, I'm still a hardcore, like, medium to heavyweight Euro game player
Sure.
at heart, but I do find it really interesting seeing just the different ways these games are pushing the envelope in that regard. We've also been seeing, I feel like, a lot more varying strategies from different publishers on how they're getting their games to the market, how they're carving out their niche. I mean, even just the way that crowdfunding is being used continues to morph. You
Sure.
see the way Monolith has launched their project this week, where, hey, we've already printed the game essentially. It's this 1 week push. These are all the copies we have to sell. I mean, that's just a different way to use Kickstarter than we've seen it being used as in the
Right.
past. So just all these different strategies emerging. Some publishers going direct to consumer, some going mass market. You see this all stratification and strategy, which has been really interesting.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think it. As somebody who's watching it both from the consumer side of the fence, but also as a publisher, it's very interesting to see how these different channels are being used and how people are reaching out to their audiences and things like
Hmm.
that. And so, I mean, along the lines, what are some things that are you think concerning in the coming years?
Concerning, I guess it's just we're so used to this rapid growth that we're in right now. I hear a lot of talk from some people about a bubble that's going to burst. I don't necessarily agree that there's a bubble bursting, because to me, that means there's also a mass exodus of players for a
Right.
bubble burst. But I do see the potential of maybe we're starting to reach a lot of the people that there were to reach, and a lot of new entries into the market are going to have a harder time making a go of it.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Good.
yeah, we're these past 5 years, we've just seen so many new publishers and players entering the market because it was sustainable. There were new players coming in as well to sustain all these releases. However, at the same time, we've said the same thing every year for the last how many years, and it's continued to grow. So, how many years of that do we have left? I don't know. It seems like it would have to kind of level out at some point.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between market saturation and the challenges of market saturation and a bubble bursting, right? A bubble bursting is suggesting that there's some sort of inflation or false value
Mm-hmm.
that's in the market that gets is getting propped up and exposed. But I don't know that that's actually the the case, as you said. That it's not that the players are going to all suddenly disappear or stop buying. It's more like their money just won't go as far, and there won't be as much new money. So the competition will just get more intense. It's like mobile. I mean, mobile's been exploding for some time, but when you think of the mobile games market, there's such a high level of saturation that it becomes very hard to compete as a smaller publisher or with a subpar idea, right? Um, and I would think people would say now that it's much harder the thing that could have funded on Kickstarter 3 years ago isn't going to hold up and stuff like that. And I think, I watch it on and on because I guess at some point I became a pretty regular Kickstarter creator, right? Like,
Hmm.
I, I
Yeah.
have, I have, I think Skull Call is my 11th campaign, right, or 10th or 11th campaign. So there's but watching it year over year, you just see the difference in expectations of the backers and the
Hmm.
performers, and like stuff like emergence of pledge managers and just different expectations, and so it's been crazy. And but at the same time, I mean, I think if you still look at the size of the board game industry as an entertainment industry and you compare it to
Hmm.
any other entertainment industry, it's like super tiny. So
Yeah.
if you're thinking about the potential market being anyone who likes to be entertained, we're just hanging out in a little corner of that market, and there's
Yeah.
tons of market over there. So the more that we can break into that market, and off the screens, I think is probably good. But their games are
Hmm.
also blending and bleeding with things. So with board games and video games and digital games are all coming together. Like what's that great game that Lucky Duck Games did? Chronicles of Crime, right?
Yeah. That one should be showing up at my house today. I'm excited.
Oh man, be excited! It's great, and like it'll be everywhere, and people. It's gonna, they did it, and it's that combination of both the digital and the physical. And there's other
Hmm.
examples of that.
And you see
Um,
the market growing, just a game like Ticket to Ride being available on Xbox Live and as an app, and like
yeah,
people get their exposure to our industry through the more digital market a lot of the times too, and come into the fold that way. So all that, like I said, all that mixing and merging and
yeah, no, it's great
colliding, and yeah, it's really neat.
for sure. I agree. Well, we've been talking for a good while. Thanks so much for the time. I think that again, just to emphasize, Board Game Geek is awesome. Thank you guys very much for all the hard work. Thank you for taking that risk 12 years ago to take whatever was your growing career in architecture and saying, you know what, I'm just going to do board game advertisement, right? But
Yeah.
but no, I think BGG being a bellwether for the game industry, I think is relevant since it's that intersection point of all the different content creators and games and players and communities. Um, what to end with? What game are you playing today that you're having the most fun with, and what's the one you're looking forward to?
Today, I would still say, even though this game's been out for a while, I still just cannot get enough of playing Terraforming Mars.
Nice.
It's like every expansion that comes out now, Colonies is out, and I'm like dying to play it more. The game quickly shot to my number one game of all time, and
Wow.
I still want to play it all the time. Um, as far as games that I haven't played yet, I'm looking at my game shelf here. Oh, I picked up Underwater Cities at Spiel.
No, I'm not familiar with
Uh,
that one. Who company designer?
Um, I cannot read the publisher name, and I'm blanking on the publisher name. Rio Grande picked it up for distribution in the
Okay.
U.S., which so it should be on retail shelves here. I think it's Delicious Games,
Oh, okay, sure.
if I'm remembering correctly. It's their first game, new publisher. But I'm probably excited for that. The same reason I love Terraforming Mars is it comes with over 100 unique cards that do different things and engine building. That's just my style of game. So
Sure,
um,
clearly.
we got BGG Con coming up next week,
Yeah.
so should be able to get it played about as much as I want.
Yeah, I'm super bummed because BGG Con, I think I did 3 years, easily my favorite convention. But this year, I was out of work for a long time, and I got back.
Mhm.
I was doing the public Pentaverse game stuff, but not in the sustain my house
Right.
version of it. And so I just started like a new job about um, 4 months ago, and so in the go to a game convention or like save up my time for holidays with the family. I
Yeah.
went for the holidays with the family, but I'm super bummed because I think I haven't been to spring, but as far as the November one is concerned, I think it's just such a great just play the games and enjoy the people convention that I'm certainly going to miss going. But you guys are going to have a blast, which is
Yes.
awesome.
And we're also looking forward to next year where we won't be at the airport anymore. We'll be downtown Dallas.
Whoa. Is this that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I didn't know if that had gone through yet, or if whether that's official, or
yeah, we were kind of busting at the seams at the airport location. So got to move to downtown, which will also be nice because you can just leave the hotel and walk and drive places without having to leave the airport. So multiple things that should improve for next year. So I'm excited for this year and excited for the upcoming years too.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, sir. Well, thanks so much for being on. Thanks everyone for watching. Talk to you later.
All right, thanks.
Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.